If you can trade lives with any writer in history, you'd live their whole life, who would it be? And before you answer, let me just give you the parameters. So if you said Stephen King, that means you're also an alcoholic cokehead who got ran over by a van at some point.
Yes.
So who would be the person you chose or choose? I was thinking about this, and I was going to actually text you this, and I was like, hey, think about this for a while, but I felt it'd probably be better just on the spot.
Yeah, right.
Because if you think about it too much like I did, you start going,
Nobody.
It's like, who would? Well, Mark Twain, Civil War era, I don't want to live then.
Right, yeah.
No Poe, no Mark Twain, no dying young either. It's like, well, what Hemingway lived a hell of a life, but then I have to be in World War I. Actually, I don't want to be in any World War.
Yeah, like any like the older, even like just like Shakespeare, be like, I don't want to live then.
No, you don't want to live in Shakespeare times.
Well, man, I guess like would you be living that knowing like, oh man, like hundreds of years from now, like things are gonna be so much nicer to have toilets, or would you?
No. You're their life, so you wouldn't know any better, but you're still living in fucking know beds made of old feathers and straw.
Right.
So I was thinking, it's like, okay, so Hemingway, no, I don't want all the brain damage and then have to shoot myself. And I was like, well, what writers of the time would have been all right? Because like they did go to Europe and they lived the cool cosmopolitan life for a little bit. But then I was thinking, again, the World War I, don't want to do that.
What about Steinbeck?
Well, here we go. So I was thinking about like Vonnegut.
Yeah.
But he was in the bombing of Dresden.
True.
A very formidable experience for his life. Kind of was the reason he wrote Slaughterhouse-Five. Like, I don't want to have that PTSD.
Yeah.
The rest of his life seemed pretty good.
Yeah.
But if you have to have a big thing like that, probably don't want to do that.
You just don't want to be a writer, Caleb.
I don't think so. Steinbeck would be cool, but I don't know much about his personal life, but I feel like something, again, the 30s, Depression era.
Maybe he was like an alcoholic or something.
Who the fuck knows? It's just anyone before 1950, just take him off the list.
Yeah, because then you couldn't even do Howard because you fucking just, eat a bullet like super young because you're depressed. Lovecraft, you're just a racist
hermit who ends up dying of some kind of awful cancer, stomach cancer or something. I was thinking of something like the Japanese authors I really like, and I was like, well, and I do have a good answer for this, by the way, I came up with. But before we get there, I was thinking like, okay, well, what about Yukio Mishima? Love his work, but I have to be a closeted gay man who not only had to work in a factory during World War I because he was so sickly, couldn't actually, or World War II, because he was so sickly, couldn't go to war, but he also committed seppuku and got his head cut off. So no, at the age of like 40. So no, not him. Natsume Soseki, who lived during the Meiji era, the Transformation era, that seemed kind of cool, even though it's like, I don't mind not having like the modern conveniences. Like if life is kind of cool,
you just don't want to shit in a hole.
Yeah, I'm fine. He was like an academic. He seemed, the higher end. He had a cool life, but I think he died of like an awful ulcer. So I was like, no, and he suffered for like 20 years with it before he died. So I was like, I don't want to do that. And then obviously the modern example, which would have been perfect until maybe a couple years ago, was Neil Gaiman.
Yeah.
Until you found out that, unless you want to be a tub guy, you probably don't want to live the Neil Gaiman life.
What about Murakami?
That was my answer.
Okay. I
was thinking of an author who seemingly hasn't gone through anything too terrible.
Right.
Because he was born after the World War II. So he grew up post World War II Japan, which was a different time, but he owned a jazz club for a little bit, a jazz bar. He runs a lot, which I'm not a big fan of. But that's like, that's the only real knocks is he runs a lot.
he's a cardio guy.
Yeah, but other than that, he seems to have been rich most of his life, and he likes baseball and stuff. Like, it seems like that's for a writer, not too bad of a life.
Yeah.
You look at like a Chuck Palahniuk, he got swindled out of millions from like a close friend or whoever was handling his money. And then also, again, you have he's not a closeted gay man, but I just don't want to be a gay man.
Yeah.
Besides any butt pounding or anything like that, it's mainly just like, that seems like a lot of problems you'd have to deal with, that, especially now.
Well, yeah, now.
Because Chuck Palahniuk, in writer terms, is still fairly young when he's like 50-something. So you're thinking like, Chuck Palahniuk, a gay man, he's famous, so it might not be so bad for him. But the way things are going, we're going back to bad times. So being gay is going to be a problem again, I think, for like another decade or two. So I just don't want to deal with all that. Because I'm also thinking if it's a living author, you have to think about what the future's going to hold for you. So if you're like a Spanish or Latin American author, probably don't want to Like if you're like a Mexican descent author, you don't want to pick them right now. That's probably going to be bad. I don't know. There's a lot of bad ones, but Murakami seemed to be the safest one.
Yeah, that's a pretty safe one. I mean, getting hit by the car, if that's like the worst thing.
Yeah, but he was really fucked up.
Yeah.
And also, Stephen King was like on drugs and alcohol so bad that like that probably almost killed him.
True, fair.
And then you have to, I mean, no offense, but you have to look like Stephen King.
Yeah.
Maybe Joe Hill.
I was thinking about Joe Hill because he still was able to do like it on his own merits, you know?
The Stephen King stuff, but without the other stuff.
Right.
The bad stuff.
At least yet, anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would be going probably some kind of modern, like I was thinking maybe that Brad Meltzer, because he's like a neuro guy and he has a good library of books right now, and he's done comics too and TV shows and stuff like that.
And so far, nothing's come out bad.
No, and he's like a very like kind of like smart, like history buff, like intelligent guy too. So yeah, and yeah, no, like, you know, knock on wood, no diddling or nothing. So it'd probably be maybe something like that, or maybe like maybe like a comic book, author.
So you're not gonna pick J.K. Rowling?
No, not a big magic guy.
All right. So that was a conversation
and a podcast.
If you folks have any answers for that differ, I would like to hear it, because a lot of people read things we don't read. And obviously it doesn't have to be a famous author, but it's someone that you would want to live their whole life.
Yeah.
And since authors often put their lives in their work, you do get to feel or know a bit about them and what they've gone through and how they think. And
you wouldn't want to trade places with Homer?
Homer?
Yeah.
Homer Simpson or the Odyssey Homer?
The Odyssey's Homer.
Well, they don't know if he was actually real, so probably not. And again, the butt pounding. The Greeks were well known, but it wasn't, you know what? It wasn't really a stigma back then, so it might not have been. But the lube, what were they using? Probably olive oil. Hot, 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 hot. If I had to go, okay, we'll end it on because this is more of a DBS episode anyway. So we'll end it on history.
Okay.
So you have to pick a historical writer. So it has to be pre-20th century.
See, I was going to go with maybe, originally I was going to go with maybe like H.G. Wells, because I liked a lot of his stuff, but he's kind of like right at that borderline.
No, they have to be dead before the 20th century.
Dead before the 20th century.
So no Russians.
No.
Honestly, Mark Twain would probably be the safest bet for that.
Yeah.
Because granted, the time period sucked, but he seemed to do all right.
You know, like all the things that are like coming to my head, like
you don't want Poe.
No, you don't want Poe.
You don't want Cervantes because he was in jail a lot. You don't want Dante because he was also in jail a lot, I think. Again, Shakespeare, probably not. If you had to pick a time like way back then, Middle Ages kind of thing, I would guess Shakespeare would probably be the better bet. But I also feel that he died pretty young, I'm pretty sure.
When Dracula was like early 1900s, right?
Yeah, that came out 20th century, I believe.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, I'm sure Bram Stoker lived into the 20th century. Shit. Yeah, I don't know. If I'm going to go really old, I think I'm going to go, who wrote the Epic of Gilgamesh? Just some poet.
Yeah.
I'll go that guy.
Just some poet?
Some poor poet in Mesopotamia eating dirt. Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one, because then when you get into the historical side of things, everything was bad all the time.
All the time.
Was there a really good period to be alive back then? Probably not.
Or no.
Anyway, we're talking about famous authors who hated the works of other famous authors.
Ooh.
We might have did this before, I don't know, but it will be Hoot and Nanny. You are listening to the Drunken Pen Writing Podcast. I'm your host, Caleb James. With me, as always, Spencer, the Chilean Chicken Choker Church. Ooh, extra C because your name is Church.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
You choking them chickens? That means you're choking the cack. Cack. You're squeezing the cack. You're gooing out the end of that cack head. That sounds gross. I want to read you something, Spencer.
Okay.
So I started reading William Faulkner's Knight's Gambit.
Okay,
I'll actually read you the synopsis so I don't have to,
paraphrase.
Yeah. attorney Gavin Stevens, a wise and forbearing student of crime and a reoccurring character in William Faulkner's novels, plays the leading role in these 6 stories of violence. I did not know that this was a character also in his novels, so that's interesting. A man more interested in justice than in the law, Stevens deploys his ingenious detective skills and his insights into the folkways of... I did not want to say this, so... I actually looked up a video of Faulkner pronouncing this. This is his made-up town or city or whatever in Mississippi. Yoknapatawpha, Yoknapatawpha, Yoknapatawpha County, Mississippi, to uncover hidden motives. Terrible name.
Yeah, that's not even...
Yeah, not good. For this newly restored edition of Knight's Gambit, editor John N. Duvall compared the 1949 text to newly discovered original typescripts, allowing him to reverse the significant changes and deletions from the editors. I'm not going into that, but I read the introduction, and it was actually pretty interesting. It had all these stories, like where they were published, how much he got paid for them, and the changes like these magazine editors made. It was very interesting how they went about it back then, and it would piss me off as a writer. Like sometimes they would just remove huge chunks of text without saying, hey, we're just doing this to make it quicker read. So, I mean, I kind of get it after reading some of these. So if you ever wondered what a Faulkner-style detective noir kind of story would be like, let me just read you the introduction to the story I'm reading now. I'll just read you the first paragraph, okay? So this story is called Monk. This will give you a feel of what a pulp story from William Faulkner is like. Because you're like, well, the guy who wrote The Sound and the Fury and As I Lay Dying, how can he possibly write, a short, concise, speedy, pacey, actiony, kind of fun story? So far, I'm only in the second story. He can't.
No.
So here's the first paragraph of Monk. And I'm going to try to do this without bumbling.
Okay.
Let me get a sip of this crusty water. Gotta get the lips wet. And this will also decipher if you... This will be the deciding factor if you want to read this.
Oh, my God.
I will have to try to tell about Monk. I mean, actually try. A deliberate attempt to bridge the inconsistencies in his brief and sordid and unoriginal history, to make something out of it, not only with the nebulous tools of supposition and interference and invention, but to employ these nebulous tools upon the nebulous and inexplicable material which he left behind him. Because it is only in literature that the paradoxical and even mutually negativing anecdotes in his history of a human heart can be juxtaposed and annealed by art into verisimilitudes and credibility. I did that better than I thought I was going to. That's just the one, the opening paragraph. Also, Spencer, if you want to another feel, it's almost every page is just giant blocks.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so not what I would consider a fun noir read. The first story was interesting. It wasn't as hard as that, but this guy is just William Faulkner, this Gavin Stevens character. So if you folks want to read a good, fun pulp story, don't read Faulkner. Don't read
whatever that was called.
Yeah. So what'd you because I remember going, I don't think I understood that at all and had to reread it. Because I had to slow down and reread that because I didn't really know what the fuck he was talking about on the first go.
He was trying to describe the monk guy, like...
Yeah, and it does not get better. That's one of the shorter stories in here, and I started, I think maybe the other day, and I'm only like, got 10 pages left of a 15-page story or something. I'm like...
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that.
Nah.
Because, I mean, like, it's one thing whenever you go to his other works, and you're like...
You're expecting it.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, that's written more complex than, like, The Sound and the Fury. Like, that was just... written in a way that was supposed to be kind of difficult, but as far as paragraph structure, it wasn't big blocks like that, is from what I remember. Anyway, we're going back to 2017 today. Our friends from the Literary Hub, lithub.com. We've been here before. 14 classic works of literature hated by famous authors. I feel like we might have covered this before, but I don't mind revisiting.
Right.
So we're just going to get into the article. We don't need to do all this tomfoolery with the introductions. So Virginia Woolf, who is famous for, she is well known for The Lighthouse, which I read, which I really liked, but it's just not a long book, but it feels long. It's one of those ones, a stream of consciousness and, postmodern hooey-dooey. That's a word I can use. Just a lot of rambling and, now this chapter is from the point of view of the house, and there's a lot of nonsense. And this is her opinion on James Joyce's Ulysses.
Oh.
Apparently, Miss Wolf didn't like Ulysses, which is odd because, again, her writing fucking nonsense herself, you think that she would be a little more, you would enjoy something like Ulysses more, but apparently not. So from her diaries, she didn't have the balls to come out and say this because she was a lady of the early 20th century. So Wednesday, August 16th, 1922. I should be reading Ulysses and fabricating my case for and against. I have read 200 pages so far, not a third, and have been amused, stimulated, charmed, interested by the first 2 or 3 chapters, to the end of the cemetery scene, and then puzzled, bored, irritated, and disillusioned by a queasy undergraduate scratching his pimples. Tom, great Tom, T.S. Eliot, thinks this is on par with War and Peace? An illiterate underbred book. How could this be an illiterate book? The fucking most words in a book. And it's like, that's an illiterate book. An illiterate underbred book. It seems to me the book of a self-taught working man, and we all know how distressing they are, how egotistic, insistent, raw, striking, and ultimately nauseating. When one can have the cooked flesh, why have the raw? But I think if you are an anemic as Tom is, there is glory in blood. Being fairly normal myself, I am soon ready for the classics again. I may revise this later. I do not compromise my critical sagacity. I plant a stick in the ground to mark page 200. I feel like her response was kind of an overwritten asshole response. Yeah. But she writes more. Wednesday, September 6, 1922.
Jesus.
Maybe she changed her tune. I finished Ulysses. How the fuck did you read it that fast? When was the first August? You read it in a fucking month, you damn it. I read it. Well, it took me like 3 months. I guess I read it fairly quick. I finished Ulysses and think it a misfire. It's a misfire, Spencer.
Do you agree?
No. Genius it has, I think, but of the inferior water. The book is diffuse. It is brackish. It is pretentious. I will agree on the pretentious bit. It is underbred. Again, she uses that underbred. I don't know what she's getting at there. It is underbred, not only in the obvious sense, but in the literary sense. A first-rate writer, respects writing too much to be tricky, startling, doing stunts. I'm reminded all the time of some callow bored schoolboy, full of wits and powers, but so self-conscious and egotistical that he loses his head, becomes extravagant, mannered, uproarious, ill at ease, makes kindly people feel sorry for him, and stern ones merely annoyed. I'm not reading more of this. So basically, she didn't like it because it was her, in her opinion, a smart working man. I mean, Joyce was kind of an academic. I don't know where she's getting with him being just like a layman working man kind of deal. But basically, she thinks a man trying to be too smart for himself. Like he's trying to act too smart. I don't know about that, but since Ulysses was like the first real book of its kind, I can understand her judgment. But at the same time, again, she wrote some fucking nonsense too. It's like, I don't think you should be judging, lady.
And you know how bad, like, I put that in your personal journal.
Yeah.
I'd have to be like, you have to really like hate something to be like to write it down in your journal like that.
Yeah. And then she goes on the very end, comparing him to Tolstoy and say it's absurd to compare him with Tolstoy. This has nothing to do with War and Peace. War and Peace is an epic war story. Ulysses is a epic nonsense story. I'm just going to mansplain. It went over her head. She just didn't get it. Virginia Woolf, who's clearly way smarter than I'll ever be, didn't get it. Or she overgot it. What was that? Next up, this is an interesting one. Dorothy Parker on Winnie the Pooh. How can you hate Winnie the Pooh? In her constant reader...
He needs pants.
In her constant reader column in The New Yorker, October 20th, 1928. The above lyric is called from the 5th page of Mr. A.A. Milne's new book, The House at Pooh Corner.
Pooh Corner.
I've been on Pooh Corner many a times. The House at Pooh Corner, for although the work is in prose, there are frequent droppings into more cadence whimsy. She knew what she was doing. She knew what she was doing.
I hope so.
So she doesn't like that there was too much whimsy in a children's story, I guess. This one is designated as a hum that pops into the head of Winnie the Pooh as he is standing outside Piglet's house in the snow, jumping up and down to keep warm. Why are you criticizing a kid's story about a fucking bear and a piglet and like Eeyore? Like, what are you doing, lady? Like, that's what you got to be upset about in life? Read Ulysses. See how you feel then. It seemed to him a good hum, such as is hummed hopefully to others. In fact, so good a hum did it seem that he and Piglet started right out through the snow to hum it hopefully to Eeyore. Oh, darn, there I've gone and given away the plot. I could bite my tongue out. Fucking bitch. As they are trotting along against the flakes, Piglet begins to weaken a bit. Pooh, he said at last and a little timidly, because he didn't want Pooh to think he was giving in. I was just wondering, how would it be if we went home now and practiced your song and then sang it to Eeyore tomorrow or the next day when we happen to see him? That's a very good idea, Piglet. All right, I'm going to get done with that shit. I'm just going to read what the... apparently, she spent the rest of the article just quoting the book. And why did she hate it? And it is what word hummy, my darlings, that marks the first place in the House of Pooh corner at which constant reader fwowed up. Weeder fwowed up. I guess it's, I don't know. Apparently, Dorothy Parker did not like Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah, that's odd.
I mean, it's a kid's... What do you really... They hum too much? Too much whimsy in a whimsical tale of a bear and pig. You know, anamorphic bear and pig.
She's not a fan of honey.
Anthropomorphic. Is it anthropomorphic? It's a word I always forget.
I think it's anthropomorphic.
I don't know. Mike... Mike seems like a guy who would know about fucking lively animals coming to life and pleasure in a man. The pot of honey. Charlotte Bronte on Pride and Prejudice. Now this is getting to be steamy. This is going to be some gossipy nonsense because we got one of the lady book writers hating on another lady book writer. Didn't know that was a thing. In a letter
to... a woman hating another woman?
What? No way. In a letter to G.H. Lewis, lover of George Eliot, January 12th, 1848. Wasn't George Eliot a lady too? Or is G.H. Lewis a man? Anyway, why do you like Miss Austen so very much? Oh, no. She's starting it. She's peppering it with the, I just don't see the appeal.
Rolling it
with those wide hips and those overly pronounced nipples. Why do you like Miss Austen so very much? I am puzzled on that point. What induced you to say you would rather have written Pride and Prejudice or Tom Jones than any of the Waverley novels? Jealous. I had not seen Pride and Prejudice till I read that sentence of yours, and then I got the book and studied it. Well, if you're studying it instead of reading it, that's going to be a problem. Mm-hmm. And what did I find? An accurate daguerreotyped portrait of a commonplace face, a carefully fenced, highly cultivated garden with near borders and delicate flowers, but no glance of a bright, vivid monogamy. Word.
Monogamy?
No, not monogamy.
Mahogany?
Physiognomy. They always throw that G in there. Fucks me up. No open country, no fresh air, no blue hill, no bonny beck. I should hardly like to live with her ladies and gentlemen in the elegant but confined houses. These observations will probably irritate you, but I shall run the risk. She's running the risk. Now I can understand admiration for George Sand, for though I never saw any of her works, which I admire throughout, yet she has a grasp of mind which, if I cannot fully comprehend, I very deeply respect. She is sagacious and profound. Miss Austen is only shrewd and observant. Am I wrong, or were you hasty in what you said? I think she's gaslighting this fella.
A little bit,
Do you want to restate your affiliation and liking of this lady's work? Because I'm not touching your knob ever again.
Until you do.
So it seems that our Charlotte Bronte did not like Pride and Prejudice. But how does Charlotte Bronte feel about Emma? It's another lady book. In a letter to W.S. Williams, April 12th, 1850. I have likewise read one of Miss Austen's work, Emma. She's the only Jane Austen.
No, not a fan.
What did Jane do to her? Must have her man. So she read Emma, read it with interest and with just the right degree of admiration, which the Miss Austen herself would have thought sensible and suitable. Anything like warmth or enthusiasm, anything energetic, poignant, heartfelt, is utterly out of place in commending these works. All such demonstrations the authoress would have met with the well-bred sneer, would have calmly scorned it. All right, I can't read any more of this shit. She is a hater of first degree, a literary hater.
Drink some haterade.
But perhaps she's not alone, because one Pride and Prejudice comes up again by an unlikely source. Mark Twain on Pride and Prejudice.
Oh, wow.
How does Mr. Twain, Mr. Samuel Clemens, feel about a lady book? Let's find out. In a letter to Joseph, always writing letters to people.
What else are you going to do?
I don't know. I guess fucking phonogram or telegraph. I don't know. In a letter to Joseph Twitchell, September 13th, 1898, so a good bit later, I haven't any right to criticize books, and I don't do it except when I hate them. All right, I already appreciate that start. I often want to criticize Jane Austen, but her books madden me so that I can't conceal my frenzy from the reader, and therefore I have to stop every time I begin. Every time I read Pride and Prejudice, why do you keep reading it? Why do they keep reading it? There's only one book.
Yeah.
I can only afford one book this year. Every time I read Pride and Prejudice, I want to dig her up and beat her over the skull with her own shin bone.
Wow.
Jesus.
No, you haven't read Pride and Prejudice, have
I've
you?
not read any of those lady books. Ash said they were good, but I have not the I don't want to. I was going to use one of those big words that Jane Austen or these other, I guess Charlotte Bronte would use. I like that Mark Twain got to the point much quicker than Charlotte Bronte.
Oh, well, yes.
And it was a little more violent. From Twain's incomplete fragment entitled Jane Austen, so he also wrote something about this. Whenever I take up Pride and Prejudice or Sense and Sensibility, I feel like a barkeeper entering the kingdom of heaven. I mean, I feel as he would probably feel, would almost certainly feel. I am quite sure I know what his sensations would be in his private comments. He would be certain to curl his lip as those ultra-good Presbyterians went filing self-complacently along, because he considered himself better than they? Not at all. They would not be to his taste, that is all. So he basically feels that it sucks. Aldous Huxley on the road. On the road. Oh, they should have just said how he feels about the road. On the road. I bought that copy at that bookstore in Pittsburgh on the road, that one, the fancy copy.
Okay.
Jack Kerouac. I have not read that. I read Dharma Bums and I actually really liked Dharma Bums. I never really got into the Beat Generation stuff. Like Bryce he read Howl by Ginsberg, that big poem, and it's like a poetry collection. But I don't know. I feel like I am too old to be getting into the Beats. Seeing as how I'm like the age where some of them start dying off from alcohol abuse. As quoted in Nicholas Murray's Aldous Huxley's A Biography, I got a little bored after a time. I mean, the road seemed to be awfully long. That's all he said. I like that. There was a, who was it? Truman Capote. Truman Capote was a famous hater of Jack Kerouac's, and his view on the road, which I'm surprised it wasn't on here. He said, I'm going to paraphrase, that On the Road wasn't, how do you say it? It wasn't a story, it was just writing. Or maybe it wasn't writing, it was just typing. Something along those lines of just saying he just fucking hit the keyboard. He wasn't actually...
Just putting words together.
Yeah, he's just hitting the typewriter. He wasn't fucking creating a story there. Fun fact, Jack Kerouac actually wrote the original On the Road on just a long-ass scroll.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, like an asshole. Big, long scroll. And you could buy copies in that format if you want.
Why?
I don't know, this would be a fucking asshole. Catherine Mansfield on Howard's End. Do you want to read that? Because I don't know either of these people.
I don't know none of that.
I never read Ian Forster, so I'm not going to. Let's just see. Okay, this is a little snarky. So, May 1917. Putting my weakest books to the wall last night, I came across a copy of Howard's End. That's all we need to know. Weak. Martin Amis on Don Quixote. I don't know who Martin Amis is, but let's see what he had to say about Don Quixote.
Yeah, your favorite book of all time.
Yeah. From his review as printed in The War Against Cliché, Essays and Reviews 1971 to 2000. While clearly an impregnable masterpiece, so you already started off on the wrong foot if you're going to criticize something. While clearly an impregnable masterpiece, Don Quixote suffers from one fairly serious flaw, that of outright unreadability. I don't know about that. This reviewer should know because he has just read it. The book bristles with beauties, charm, sublime comedy. It is also, for long stretches, approaching about 75% of the whole, inhumanly dull. Reading Don Quixote can be compared to an infinite visit from your most impossible senior relative, with all his pranks, dirty habits, unstoppable reminiscence, and terrible cronies. When the experience is over and the old boy checks out at last on page 846, the prose wedged tight with no breaks for dialogue. You will shed tears, all right, not tears of relief, but tears of pride. You made it despite all that Don Quixote could do. Maybe he read a bad fucking translation. I don't know.
I was going to say, well, he kind of contradicted himself when he said, it's unreadable because this reviewer should know because he read it.
So you read it.
You read the unreadable.
And also you listed a whole bunch of things about how great it is, and then long stretches are dull. Teach their own. I don't like critics generally because, like, why do you have the ability to criticize something that we should take seriously? You know, what are your accomplishments?
Right.
If you're a Pulitzer Prize winning literary figure yourself. You won the Nobel Prize in Literature for your fiction. All right, I'll take you serious. Mm-hmm. If you're just some guy that just like, I read a book and I don't, because that's Goodreads people.
Right.
Oh, I didn't like this book because blah, blah, blah. Oh, I'm not a writer. I write reviews. That's it. I'm like, well, fuck your butt. David Foster Wallace on American Psycho. This should be a doozy.
Oh, wow. I just wonder how long his thing is.
From an interview with Larry McCaffrey published in the Review of Contemporary Fiction, summer of '93. So Larry McCaffrey will be LM. David Foster Wallace will be DFW. So this starts off with Larry McCaffrey, and then I believe it just goes, every other. In your own case, how does this hostility manifest itself? Here's Wallace. Oh, not always, but sometimes in the form of sentences that are syntactically...
Oh, you fucker.
In the form of sentences that are syntactically not incorrect, but still a real bitch to read, or bludgeoning the reader with data, or, data, because he would say data probably, because he's a fuck. Data, or devoting a lot of energy to creating expectations and then taking pleasure in disappointing them. You can see this clearly in something like Ellis's American Psycho. It panders shamelessly to the audience's sadism for a while, but by the end it's clear that the sadism's real object is the reader herself. Herself was only a lady reader? But at least in the case of American Psycho, I felt there was something more than just this desire to inflict pain, or that Ellis was being cruel the way you said serious artists need to be willing to be. Wallace says, you're just displaying the sort of cynicism that lets readers be manipulated by bad writing. Ooh. I think it's a kind of black cynicism about today's world that Ellis and certain others depend on for their readership. Look, if the contemporary condition is hopelessly shitty, insipid, materialistic, emotionally retarded, sadomasochistic, and stupid, then I, or any writer, can get away with slapping together stories with characters who are stupid, vapid, emotionally retarded, which is easy because these sorts of characters require no development. All right, I can't read because that, again, you called it. It goes on for fucking ever. So he wasn't a fan.
His writing isn't just like a gimmick for it. That's just how he is in real life.
That's the thing. Would you say that David, I mean, you haven't read him, so I guess you can't judge, but I would say he seems to be a gimmick writer in my opinion.
Just like the long...
Just from the Oblivion stories I read, it's like, okay, these are all, either experimental or just written with some kind of gimmick. Everything has a goddamn gimmick.
And not a good one.
Only one or two of the stories were just a story. Like, everything else had some fucking weird... Anyway. Elizabeth Bishop on Seymour in Introduction. I don't know any of that, so we're going to skip it. Mary McCarthy on Franny and Zoe. Do not know that either. I like that we just get things that we don't know. Yeah. So it's just like, fuck the audience who might actually be interested. If you folks want to read these, you go to lithub.com, 14 classic works of whatever it was. H.L. Mencken on The Great Gatsby. This was published on the Chicago Sunday Tribune in 1925. The Great Gatsby was a big flop around 1925. It was not popular. It wasn't until the World War II vets got free copies and started reading it that it blew up and became considered one of the greatest novels of all time after Fitzgerald died. So he thought he was just a loser and nobody liked him. So that sucks. Probably my future.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Scott Fitzgerald's
you would wish for that future.
Yeah, I'd wish to at least become relevant even after I'm dead. Scott Fitzgerald's new novel, The Great Gatsby, is in form no more than a glorified anecdote, and not too probable at that. And also you have to remember, so if this is 1925, this is in the middle of the Roaring 20s, the jazz era, so I don't think these people's self-reflection was there yet.
No, yeah.
They weren't seeing what they were doing as, the Gilded Age. They weren't seeing, which I don't think the 20s was the Gilded Age. I think that was past the Gilded Age, but they weren't seeing themselves as rich assholes, fucking taking... partying and doing everything on the backs of the working class. Basically what we have now. We're returned to that. But they probably didn't have good self-reflection back then. So it wouldn't be until the Great Depression hit and everyone was poor and all that shit that they were able to look back and go, oh yeah, this whole thing was makes sense. Anyway, the scene in the Long Island that hangs precariously on the edges of New York City trash dumps, the Long Island of the Gandhi villas and bawdy house parties. The theme is the old one of a romantic and preposterous love, the ancient Fidelis and Urnum motif reduced to a macabre humor. The principal personage is a bounder typical of those parts, a fellow who seems to know everyone and yet remains unknown to all, a young man with a great deal of mysterious money, the taste of a movie actor, and under it all, the simple sentimentality of a somewhat sclerotic I don't know that word. Fat woman. I don't know. Sclerotic. Sclerotic. Fat woman. This story is obviously unimportant, and though, as I shall show, it has its place in the Fitzgerald canon, it is certainly not to be put on the same shelf with, say, This Side of Paradise, which is what made Fitzgerald famous. I haven't read that one yet. What ails it, fundamentally, is the plain fact that it is simply a story that Fitzgerald seems to be far more interested in maintaining its suspense than in getting under the skins of its people. It is not that they are false, it is that they are taken too much for granted. Only Gatsby himself genuinely lives and breathes. The rest are mere marionettes, often astonishingly lifelike, but nevertheless not quite alive. I will say to that remark that the uber rich, especially of the 1920s, where Jay Gatsby was a hardworking man that had to build personality, character, and grit to become, rich, even though he did it through bootlegging. The born into wealth, old money people that he's trying to impress, I would say that they were probably very shallow and one-dimensional. And
that was probably he probably wrote them like that on purpose.
Yeah, them being marionette-like with not much depth is what I would envision them.
Mm-hmm.
You think of your Jeff Bezos. Well, even him, he was more of a self-made billionaire. If you were thinking of like the Vanderbilt family or something who were born into wealth, or the Rockefellers or anyone like that, you think about the kids or the grandkids who are just rich because you don't see a lot of emotional depth in their character. They haven't gone through a lot of shit. So I would.
Or they do. It's the stupid shit, like self-harming,
self-made. I do drugs because I'm
yeah.
bored. Yeah, that shit. Maybe daddy didn't love me enough because he's too busy making money. That you might be as deep as it goes. So I do not agree with that in the fact that it was unintentional. I think, like you said, that was probably intentional. Like, I think Fitzgerald was putting a mirror up to those old wealth rich people, because which actually bled into all of his work pretty much, was that I think he was dating or tried to date a girl in his youth, and her dad was old money rich, and Fitzgerald was basically, even though he wasn't like poor, he was like middle class or something, but they viewed him as like the poor, and was like, you're never going to be on her level, like give it up. And that like really deeply affected him forever. So he was basically Gatsby. Or maybe even Nick Carraway. Not Nick Carraway. Who's his name? Carraway? Nick the Dick. Might have to cut this short. Vladimir Nabokov on Dr. Zhivago. We have Vladimir Nabokov on the Brothers Karamazov and Crime and Punishment. Vladimir Nabokov on Finnegan's Wake. I actually really want to get to that one. So there's only 3 more, but it's 40 minutes in. 2-parter, or should I just...
You think that'd be enough for a second part?
You know what? Yes, but we will record it now.
Yeah.
All right. So, folks, that was an episode. Next week, we will be doing part 2 of this episode, which is DBS, just because I don't want it to be the 200th episode.
Yeah.
So we'll be reading more of those and talking about stuff. You folks can check us out at DBW Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, some other stuff maybe. CalebJamesK.com. You can read my publishing history. I just got put out in the Leo, it's been out. I just haven't posted about it. The Leo Collection by Horoscope, January Ember Press. You could check that out, paperback or Kindle. My story, Bathed in Starlight, was in Horoscope 3, so if you already got that, you already read that. But it's a fun collection. Also, I think that's all publishing news for now. Spencer, the Church, on OnlyFans, is down in Morocco, manhandling Mumford & Sons. Where were you? I don't remember at all.
I'd say my Leo story, or cancer story.
Your cancer story's out?
Isn't that what you sent me a link to?
You did. You just didn't get a paperback.
No.
Not
yet. I'm waiting to order.
What is the name of the story?
Boogeyman.
No, it's not Boogeyman.
No.
Spencer has a story in the Cancer Collection, also put up by January Ember Press, and that is a news story that he wrote 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if it's good because I didn't reread it. I forget the name. But anyway, if you want to see how Spencer used to write, you could read that story, which is in the Cancer Collection. And you can check out his OnlyFans this week. Where the fuck were you from? The Chilean Chalupa Chugger?
No.
Child Chucker?
No.
Chungus Chapper?
No, you know what it is. You remember.
Oh, Chicken Choker.
Yeah.
And he's down in Chile choking the chicken. Me gusta. All right, we'll check you out next week with a shorter episode because it's going to be the follow-up of this we got like 3 or 4 left. So anyway, check it out next time.